Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing as we creep closer to episode 200. But before we get there, today, my guest is Michael Drew. His company is called Real Estate Done For You. You're going to hear a lot about it, and I get that you might be able to figure out where we're going. Safe, cash flowing, rehabbed, and rented investment properties. We go through how he got to that, and we are going to be talking about the Indianapolis market on this show. Let's go. This is episode 197 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Michael Drew. Michael is a coach and mentor, of course, in the real estate investing space. He's also the CEO of Real Estate Done For You, where he's helped hundreds of investors from all over the world reach their retirement goals by investing in rental real estate with cash, IRAs, mortgages, and 1031 exchanges. Michael, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Jonathan Green. I'm telling you, I want you to announce my child's lacrosse game or something. That's
yeah. People say it. I mean, at 197 episodes, I've really got this like podcast voice going. Right. I don't know if maybe I talk like this in my regular life. I'm not sure. At lunch today, maybe I'll have to ask if that is. But I'm excited to have you on the show and go into your background. And interesting to you, which is similar to me. Like I played with a lot of stocks when I was younger as well. Mm-hmm. When you were younger, which was the thing that you came to first in terms of what you liked, stocks or real estate?
Absolutely stocks.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Chicago. And so the cool guys were the IBM guys or the guys walking down the street on the way to the Board of Trade, on the way to Chicago Board of Options Exchange, the Mercantile. And that was supposed to be the plan. All I had to do is get a little bit better at math and I should be able to crush souls until reality hit.
Yeah. And I mean, like for me, my dad just kind of like, he said, here's some money, invest in stocks. And there was no internet back then. So I would read through the stocks in the newspaper, like box scores on baseball, which I read every single one also. And then I would try to figure out like, hey, what's going up? What's going down? What do I like? And that's how I learned about it. And then I think slowly I started to watch. My dad was, of course, in real estate. I watched him do real estate. And for me, I started to realize like, well, that's more value add. Like I can actually do something with, I still like stocks, but what if I can have an impact on this? When did you see that as the differentiator in terms of, tangible, non-tangible assets?
Well, it's funny you say that. We're I don't want to date this episode, but we have a presidential election happening.
Yeah, right. We are recording on November 4th, so it's coming up.
And you actually can. There's a company, it begins with a K, Kalshi, that you can bet on the president's.
I know.
If you saw that, right? And so I'm answering your question the long way, and then also about 5 years ago, I learned how to play blackjack because you should know a little bit about a lot. Play a little golf, play a little this, should know a little bit of blackjack. So you can do everything right in blackjack, which is you stand on 20 and then the dealer gets 21 and you lose all your money.
Yeah.
And that was my experience in stocks. I did the right thing and lost money. And I'm a little competitive by nature. And I'm like, this isn't fun. Yeah. I did it right.
And you had no control over that, at all. Control. It just gone. Yeah.
Right. And so luckily, my dad took $1,500 from me in seventh grade, and it went through. I'm 50 something years old, like early 50s, so I lost some money. And he said, "That's what to expect in the stock market." I'm like, "Wow, okay, thicken it up, on your way to play Atari."
Yeah. Well, we are the same age and experience the same thing because my dad said, here's X amount of money, invest in stocks. And I said, well, because I owned real estate. He put real estate in trust for me. I knew all the tenants. So I was very active in knowing that. But stocks was like, he's like, if you lose the money, you lose the money. That's part of it. You'll learn something. Fortunately, I somehow did well. I think because I was just picking things that I liked. and that were
Right.
kind of consumer facing. And I was like, well,
Right.
this looks good. And then, my dad just gave me the broker. He's like, don't ask me. I talked to the broker about stocks. So,
Right.
I'm like, 13 years old with the Merrill Lynch broker. He's like, who
Right.
is this pipsqueak kid? I'm like, I have questions I need to know.
Right. They always say good judgment comes from experience, and then experience comes from bad judgment, right?
Yeah. Fair point. And that's, very relevant to real estate because, of course,
sure.
when a lot of us get started, we have to kiss a few frogs along the way to see which things work for us. What was the first real estate asset that you bought or invested in and found interesting?
Well, thanks for asking. And I'm big into copy and success. So I kind of smart enough to know that I'm dumb, meaning, hey, if you've already done, 15 of these transactions, I'm going to take you out to lunch, buddy, and literally it was in Burbank, California. It was a 2-bedroom house. I bought it for an insane amount of money. We flipped it, way overspent on rehab. I got a mortgage on it, paid juice on it, paid this on it. I think I basically, broke even on it. And my buddy, who with tons of experience, said, well, sometimes it works like that. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Did you feel like you got good education out of it, though? Because a lot of us who flipped over the years, even doing it so long, sometimes you just hit a weird one, where the town screws with you and it takes longer. Yeah. It's just part of the process, and you try your best not to lose. So then when you win big, you're like, wow, crush this one.
Right. And then I started, I used to be embarrassed of the fact that I only went to 2 years of college. And I said, well, wait a second. So did Michael Dell, and he's doing okay. Yeah. And so I just had this thought that I'm just going to outwork you. Okay. Good for you. You could afford college. I started companies in college. And so I'm just going to outwork you. And so, from my experience, I would just, when I found somebody successful, I was the guy that read the book, asked questions about the book, signed up for the coaching, did the whole 9 yards. And I remember a mentor of mine said, if you can learn something in 3 weeks or 3 months, it's pathetic to learn it over 3 years or 30 years. Yeah. So pay the money and that's what I did. And it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. And more importantly, from your story, it's you did the work, because I found that there's kind of this weird confluence now of people who don't want to go to college, which is fine. I think that's actually a smart choice for a lot of kids now based on what they're getting out of it. But they also don't want to work. They're like, I want to be a real estate investor at 22 and entrepreneurial, but like you still need that W-2 to get you the foundation so you're lendable. So it's this weird thing. And there's also, I found, I want to get your feedback on this, of course, from your background. There's a lot of people who seek coaching, but they think it's going to do it for them. So they pay the money and then they don't do the work. I'm like you. Whatever I do, like I just like to win. And even when I was working for the government, I just liked to win. I wasn't getting paid a lot, but I just wanted to keep getting promotions. I like to work hard. Right. But have you found in the coaching space that it's kind of this oddity where some people feel like, hey, well, if I'm paying you to coach, you're going to do the work for me?
Well, but that said, there's some people, we used to say, if everything was just knowledge, then all the librarians, would have great marriages and great sex lives and everything like that, right? And be millionaires, right? Yeah. But it's not knowledge. There are some coaches out there that say, just give me all your money and I'll do it for you. And that's fine. The problem there is you don't learn any skills. Right. Yeah. And so I appreciate the coach that says, we'll review the contracts or walk through the process. Right. Now, there's some people that are, I've got clients that are like, honestly, I'm way too busy. I got a buddy of mine, he's got 5 kids under 12. He's just slammed all day, every day.
Don't have time to go look at properties on the weekend.
No, sir. No, he's a client of mine. He's like, I'm too busy. I said, I got you. So. And then I can see the kind of the done for you aspect, the turnkey aspect. That's good for that, But when people get a little bit older and they're like, well, wait a second, I've got some money, but I can't afford 4% on my net worth. It's just not going to be enough. Yeah. I said, well, we might need to get some assets in your financial bag of tricks.
Yeah. And it's funny that we got to it in advance because your company is called Real Estate Done For You, but that obviously appeals to a certain subset. And I've definitely talked about this on other episodes, people who have money and don't have the time and don't really want to learn the ins and outs of everything, but they want someone who can guide them through. That's really what you are doing, right?
Right. And also, you are a little bit of a government. You said you work for the government. You mentioned,
yes, I was a prosecutor for 8 years.
Right, but that role usually isn't an entrepreneurial role.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not usually. So I have friends who are, in more of a, like my good buddy's a paramedic and he loves his wife and loves his kids and he has PTSD from this job. He's just not going to make a lot of money being a paramedic.
Yeah.
And he looks at me with the freedom I have. And I said, buddy, you've got good credit though. He's like, I just have no time or aptitude.
You're highly lendable. Yeah.
Highly lendable. And I said, if you can just buy one house a year, I'll walk you through it. I'll give you the same house I give my sister. Here are the numbers. Let's do one and you're not going to get hurt. And then, he's okay, I got it, and honestly, he's like, I would rather coach my girls soccer than really learn what you're talking about, Michael. And I said, you're a great dad. That's fine.
Yeah. But also, let's get some boring real estate in the hopper so you have some truly, at least as passive as it can outside of syndications, where someone else is helping you make everything. So, hey, look, you're going to pick up the check. Things may go wrong with the property. That happens, but that's what you have reserves for. And, you're not spending your whole wad on the first property.
Right. And I got to tell you is that the best thing you can do in any of these situations, it's kind of like my break even in Burbank, California, is you got to get started. You've got, it's like when I taught my kids how to, parallel park. I drive a big old SUV, so to me it's easy.
It's so easy now, though, with the cameras.
Chicago,
come on. They don't know what we used to have to do. It was impossible.
Wasn't that a part of the driver's ed test?
Yeah, it was impossible. I was like trying to, I took it in California. You didn't have to parallel park. I thought it was great. And then they're like, well, turn out of the DMV, and it was literally onto Ventura Boulevard, like the busiest street ever. And I failed right away. There were just too many cars.
But once you do it, you're like, I got this. Both my kids can park their little Hondas or whatever they drive. It's fine. And I will say I see too many people getting ready to get ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You learn by experience. You learn by getting into it. I remember my wife got her PhD a while ago, and she was just so busy, like reading 2 books a week. And one time I started playing poker, but I didn't want to lose a lot of money, so I just did a tournament. It was $85. And the most you can lose in a poker tournament is $85. And then it was a great experience. I didn't win, but it was great. It was fun. But you've got to get started. You've got to get started.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I've said that taking action is not always what people think. I think a lot of people think take action means you have to buy. You don't have to buy before you're ready. But like you said, if you keep getting ready to get ready, you're never going to do it. Go to meetups, meet other real estate investors. I really stand on this, whether it's meetups or not. If you don't know any other real estate investors, you shouldn't be investing in real estate. You have no perspective at all from someone real to say, oh, no, look, these things all don't go well.
Right. No, absolutely. It's like my son sold Cutco knives. Do you remember those?
I'm a licensed real estate agent, so they used to be hawking those for years for real estate agents.
And same thing. He went into when he got his job forever ago, right? And he's like, "What can I expect to make?" And they go, and then I remember he called 100. I say dumb enough in all due respect, but he was dumb enough to call 100 people and get 50 appointments and sold $10,000 worth of knives, or whatever it was. It was fantastic, And he's like, "Yeah, you can make money, But he did the work.
Yeah.
And his mentors like, I've made X thousands of dollars every year selling knives, but he did the work.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's it. I mean, it just depends on who's coming to the table, what their motivation is. And like you said, there's really a couple different kinds. I think it's just as important for someone to say, I want to take action, but I don't want to do the steps myself because I don't have the time. My family's more important. I can't be spending 20 hours a week on a side hustle because I have 6 soccer games on the weekend. Right. That's a who, not how principle. Like I'm going to make a decision to hire someone else out to help me through it. I think they should know a little bit about it, right? Just like you should know a little bit about anything that you're putting money into. But I think it's a smart business decision for a lot of people to kind of just farm that out.
Perfect example. I have a friend's a new client in Florida, and I have a condo in Miami Beach, kind of a snowbird thing. And this gentleman was just, we recently had some hurricanes, and it's just the trend is not going the right way with weather in Florida. I'll tell you that.
No, I lived there 14 years, and I'm just like, I think I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he's like, insurance is just starting to go through the roof. And then this, and then that. And he goes, honestly, it's kind of like me. As I get older, I want more peace in my life. I don't need the stress. I don't want to go to Vegas and lose money. I want a little bit more peace. So he's like, I'm selling that. It appreciated. I did well, but I'm going to 1031 exchange into a few of your homes and just be hands off and and just send me the money.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
He's got the right idea. He loves Florida, but it's just too expensive for him.
Yeah, that's another really important thing for investors to note, though. I've always said people, all of us who've owned and traded a bunch of properties, there's always properties we wish we held. Like that just comes with the territory. But
Sure.
I think people get scared of selling properties because they're attached to the number of doors they have. Oh, well, I have, 8 doors. I have 4 single families and a 4 family. And I'm like, well, how are they all doing? Are
Right.
any of them a dump? I mean, is one of them like a dog collar around your neck? And then if they
Right.
really do it, if you own 4 or more properties, there's always one to get rid of because then you can upsize into a better asset.
Absolutely.
But I think people get, they get nervous if they don't have any help. Like, well, it'll turn it around. It's like, but you don't have to turn it around. If you don't like the asset, just sell it. That's why real estate's cool.
Right. It's very cool. So I think investors kind of go to the coasts for a little bit more appreciation. You're California, you're, where you're at, in Florida, et cetera, et cetera. And then they might go to the Rust Belt, if you will, or the Midwest for cash flow. We're in Indianapolis, and that's where we've got, solid cash flow. And I think you're absolutely right. When I talk about my real estate, it's more like a Toyota Camry for an Uber driver. It may not be your dream car by far, but it's the best tool for the job.
And it's going to go for 300,000 miles.
Right.
And that's, again, really important. And I think the Midwest is always a great point to talk about because for people who live in California or, like you said, on the coast where the cost of real estate is much higher, they often are looking for deals, but they also have to be careful because what looks like good cash flow is also sometimes high maintenance. If you just say like, hey, Indianapolis, it is a great market, but there's a lot of different parts to the market, just like Philadelphia or other cities. You can't just assume that it's going to be easy, to invest in an area out of state. Right. You need a guide to help you get through and make sure that you trust that guide, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I kind of, in our business model at Real Estate Done For You, it kind of reminds me, when I was new in this business, I said, hey, well, it's got a lease in place. Well, guess what? Now after doing this for 15 years, some of those leases, that tenant says, oh, my mom's sick in Seattle and I'm leaving. It's possible that your mom, you know what I mean? I mean, life happens.
Yeah.
So we're just experienced enough to handle things. And some people think they can, you can, of course, you don't need a guide. I'm telling you, it's going to save you time and money. It really will.
And that depends, as always. Like we know in this business, people are chasing time freedom. They say they're chasing money, but it's not. And these people are smart enough to say, well, my time freedom is weekends with my kids, not, my dad did them together. Right. I only saw him on the weekends and all we did was look at real estate, but we were always together talking. So like, I still look back and think like, that was awesome. But, that's just how it was. I think people have to judge what they want for time freedom. And for some, it's like, I'd like to invest in real estate, but I don't want to be hands-on. I mean, that's how I feel at this age. That's why I'm investing in more syndications. Right. I don't really want to do that many flips anymore. They're annoying to me. I'm old.
Well, not only do I agree, but it seems if you could plan this out, getting wealthy, now I don't want to sound arrogant at all, but getting wealthy is almost like a math problem. Yes, you do need some discipline, and it's kind of like losing weight. You spend more calories than you take in, right? I mean, it's just discipline, really. So if you want to retire on X $1,000 a month, plus your 401k, plus this, I want income from X number of sources, and I raise my hand and say, well, let me send you whatever, $5,000 or 10 grand, whatever we want to do the math on. And then it's really a math problem, and we've got some of the bases covered as far as the maintenance and as far as all the other heavy lifting, we're doing between the companies that I've built, we were probably direct depositing close to $1 million a month in rent. So if someone raises their hand and says, hey, I want to get up to 20 grand a month in rent, let's talk. I'll show you the math problem. You do need some down payment funds, ideally some better credit always helps, but we also have some DSCR loans, no doc loans too, because our homes are so high cash flow,
Right. And you may pay a little more for it, but you're getting an asset into your portfolio when you might not have been able to get it through more traditional means. And I think that, that's where the guide is important. Your general person is just going to like go on Zillow and think, hey, this is the only way to get a house. I got to, they don't know anything. They think it's easy. No. The first time someone walks into an open house, they're like, oh, I want to make an offer. It's like, do you have a pre-approval? Do you have money? Right. There's a lot of steps that go into this. And that's where I think it is. Again, it's people making the choice, do they want to do it themselves or do they want it done for them? Like what you're doing. And I think, that's where we have to allow people to have all these different types of choices, because there's a million different things to choose from in real estate, which is why I love it so much. There's asset classes, there's types of assets, there's different neighborhoods, there's appreciation versus cash flow. So you can really find a lot of different ways. But generally, over your career, don't you agree that if you just buy real estate and wait, like they say, Warren Buffett classically, like you're going to make money in America. Like if you can just hang on to the assets and then, maybe trade them when they're up high, because then you can turn one into two, you're going to be okay. But like you said, the only way to get there is to get to the spot where you're comfortable putting your foot into the ring and starting the bout.
Right. And I got to tell you, I've also, you've been around a little bit longer than me in this career, but it's so much fun when I had a loved one, have a marital situation happen and needed some cash. And I said, hey, you've got over $100,000 of equity. Okay. If you need some cash, this is not ideal, but you can grab some cash out of this property, tax free. Right. And then go pay off some credit cards or buy your car or do whatever you need to do in life. And it's nice. But they also took action 10 years ago.
Yeah. I think it's interesting now because, of course, housing is more expensive. And we're talking about the Midwest. You're in Indianapolis and also Columbus. But the way that I look at it, like for my kids are both adults, just, barely. So it's not going to be as easy for them and their friends to buy homes, but they could buy investment homes in the Midwest. They really could be making investments first. And people think, oh, well, I'd rather get my personal residence. Everything's an investment to me. Right. So like whether I'm buying a personal residence or something else, sure, the loan portals are different and owner occupied affords me different opportunities, but I'm trying to get assets in a portfolio. Don't you think it's more important for people now, especially the way that housing is going to look over the next 10 years, that they're just looking at, can they acquire some assets that are going to turn into cash flowing? And like you said, things that you can, take equity from later.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I have this, when you and I were kids, we would take pride in all these cars, and we would drive cars, and our parents maybe got their first home in their 20s. I've got some of these, I guess they're Gen Y or millennials or something, and they're making solid six figures, but they're an expensive part of the country. And they're like, listen, I don't really, I'm going to get a new job every 2 years.
Right.
So I'm going to rent in LA or in Scottsdale or wherever they're going to rent, but I've got extra money. Michael, give me another house.
If you look at the quality of what they get for what their rent price is versus what they would pay on a mortgage now, they're getting way more for renting. So their enjoyment is much higher. Sure. There was an investor, he was in San Diego, but he put out the comparison. He was paying like $4,200 a month in rent, and it was like a $1.6 million property. So if he bought it, he'd be paying like $8,000 a month, on a mortgage. And he's like, well, I'm just being smart. I'm not throwing money away. But a lot of us, my dad was a cash investor. So I started to think like, oh, well, mortgages are dumb and rent's dumb. And then it was a different time. He grew up in a different time. But I think it's important for people to see there's a lot of different ways to, develop your asset base and your foundation. And one of those might be renting a place that you get a lot of enjoyment of, and then buying, a single family that is managed for you or that you like to go to and you can figure out.
Right. Yeah. So in the Midwest right now, our single families are like 120 grand to 200 grand, about 150, 160 grand. Right. So you can do the math on 20% down. And some of these guys are like, why wouldn't I do this? And now it's not scary, but they've impressed me because now they're in their 40s with a dozen houses.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the plan.
Wow, buddy, you beat me.
If they just follow along, like you said, we're not rocket scientists. This isn't something that any of us created. Like, this is just smart. If you can buy one house a year for 10 years, you're going to have a lot of assets. You're going to pay for college for your kids without a problem. If you start doing that when you're little. And like you said, there is a spot where you can do it. You can find houses that are $150,000 and in very good shape, not in need of repair. Right. And then it's just an asset. You may not get the windfall of appreciation like where I am in New Jersey, where things go bananas and you're up, 200 grand, in a year, which does happen. But it's the small, steady things that will get you where, again, building a foundation as opposed to looking for something that's more of a quick fix.
Right. My son graduated with a marketing degree in entrepreneurship and a sales certificate in his school. And it's kind of like if you and I were to do a Subway franchise, we would each invest X, 50 grand each or whatever it is, but we better not be making sandwiches. We better be investors, right?
Yeah.
So even though same thing is that in the Midwest, or it's kind of like an Uber business, like I said before, it's the Toyota Camry. It's the boring one. And so at the end of your life, or when you're 50s, 60s, or when you want to slow down and volunteer all your time, is having these lean, mean, small little houses that very little goes wrong, because the turnkey provider like myself did roofs and HVAC and water heaters and electric and plumbing. You have a hole in the drywall and you got to clean the gutters. Okay.
Right. You have tenant mishaps, which happens to everybody.
Sure.
It's just part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
So no. Is I've seen this happen a long time. Where my realization happened for me is I had a gentleman in Sandusky, Ohio, which is there's a Cedar Point is an entertainment area. It's between Cleveland and kind of Toledo-ish area, and I think he had 15 homes. And I had knocking hard on an 800 credit score way back when, and I had this big fancy home and blah blah blah. And he goes, I said, even though I make more money than you, you just kicked my butt because you got started so early.
Yeah.
And I was so jealous. I'm like, I don't really long term. I don't want a big house with 5,000 square feet to heat and cool. I'd rather have 26 of these little things pay me $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's also that kind of goes to doors culture. It's like, I obviously work on market real estate and sell luxury homes, and I'm in there, and nobody needs 9 bedrooms. I mean, what are you doing with 9 bedrooms? It's just wasted space, and as we get older, we realize, like, I really don't need a lot of space. Like, it's just me. Like, what do I need 5 rooms for? I'm good. I don't even go. I don't need 2 living rooms. I only need to go into 1 living room. So that's when you can. Like, it's interesting now, because for people who think like, oh, well, it's too late to get started. I've owned hundreds of properties in my life, but now I'm down to much less and investing in more syndications. But I'm looking to different types of investments that are more passive now. So it looks to me like now, even in my 50s, probably going to grow my portfolio a lot more, just in a different way than I used to. That's going to be less hands-on, less flipping. And even if I'm flipping, I'm not involved that much. I'm hiring people to do what I know they can do.
Right. But it's appropriate for you. So a perfect example is that I had a weight issue. I want to lose some weight. And I started getting into triathlons and biking. I couldn't run to save my life. I barely float, but I really got into biking. Problem, is that it takes a lot of time, and it's actually got, now that everyone's texting and driving, it got dangerous. And I'm and so I started playing pickleball. And I gotta tell you, I am one of those nerds that's been to the U.S. Open, and my car smells like socks. And I probably play for 6 hours a week. I love it, love it, love it, love it. But that is the sport that's designed for me. And it's not even work. I'm getting excited to play tonight for 2 hours. It's designed for me. So same thing is, what's designed for you? Are you that person that wants to go in and learn about foundations and roofs and things like that? Or do you want to just design it where you spend time with your kids, or spend time, like my wife, we have some aging in-laws. Yeah. She's like, I just want to spend time with them. I go, great. But we got to get your money to work, honey. That's the wife, and get it working.
Yeah, man, I think that also, means that you need to be self-aware of what you really want, instead of having FOMO about what everybody else is doing, to really do a self-assessment. Like, what does our family want? What are our goals? How can we use this extra money to make money without taking away from our time? Or, say you're older, your kids are older, and you're divorced, and you're like, I kind of want to sink my teeth into something. So I'd like to be like more a part of the landlording and learn that. That's good too. It's just starting to really understand, instead of following like, hey, well, my friend said they did this. Well, I'll just do that. You really have to sit down and look at yourself and say, like, like you were saying before, what's the best match for my personality? Like, I don't like being a landlord because I don't like talking to people. I like owning properties, but I don't want to be a landlord because I'm not getting a call at 11 o'clock, on a Tuesday night about, I don't care. I don't want that call. I just don't. Honesty, I just do not want to hear about it. So I need to have somebody in there. So for a lot of stuff that I do, I have a buffer, so because I know myself. But I think a lot of people now are trying to kind of do what other people are doing, instead of taking a little bit more time in the middle to figure out, like, wait, what is the best thing for all of us? Are we all as a family on the same page with this? This makes sense. Do you agree with that?
Oh, hands down. And then also, if you have a partner or spouse or business partner or whatever, is find out what's going to be good for you.
Yeah.
Now, there are some graded, you could put it on little advantages and disadvantages on, like, for example, I do investing in IRAs and Roth IRAs. I enjoy it. I like it. It's a little bit more paperwork, but I don't care. That's for me. All right. My mentor, one of my guys in Atlanta, had well over $5 million inside of his Roth. I said, that would be cool. Because all your rent then is tax-free, right? I mean, so those are things that interest me personally. Some other people are really handy. I'm actually not that handy.
Oh, I'm the worst. The worst.
I'm the worst.
It's because you know what it is? I actually don't want to do it. Like my dad liked to do all that stuff. I'm just not good at it because I'm just not interested, and I just would much rather pay someone to do it better than I can. And I don't want to do it. And so again, that's a very important self-awareness for knowing, like a lot of people are like, oh, I'll just do it on YouTube. Well, I mean, that doesn't mean you're making a good permitted, investment. You're doing the only thing that can ruin real estate is you're actually devaluing it by doing the things that you're supposed to do the wrong way. So it'll come back to haunt you later.
You got it. But like I said, to answer your question is if those partners are on the same page and they take action. Again, it's I would rather, read the books and go to the seminars, but you do your first property. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, that was easy. Wow, direct deposits work. Let's do another one. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when someone says, hey, do you want to spend, this, whatever it is, 15 grand and go to Europe or buy that new SUV for 85 grand, you're like, you know what? Honestly, I could buy another house, instead of the new SUV. The old SUV is fine, honey.
Right. And then when we have both of those cash flowing, we'll take that trip next year. But let's get another asset in the bag.
There you go.
Again, and that's judging again what you want out of life. Maybe somebody who their thing is just vacations. Like they're going to take one big vacation a year. Great. Well, you have to build the asset base so you don't have to worry about it. You can take the vacation anywhere that you want because you know that you're generating enough income. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Michael Drew. Soon, this part in the middle of the episode is going to be full of sponsorships. Now, these are going to be very well curated sponsorships with real estate companies or real estate adjacent companies, hopefully from a lot of the guests that we've had on the show. And this is the way that I can help grow the podcast and find more opportunities. They're not going to be spammy. They're going to be companies that I've done a lot of due diligence on. You're not going to see an ad for Cheetos. If Cheetos are your thing, that's fine, but it's not going to be here. So stay tuned as that happened. Let's get back to Michael Drew. These are important discussions, I think, to have as a family and as, even with the kids. I'm just really passionate about having kids involved just because my dad was just never stopped talking about real estate and money and finances with me. And I'm done it not as much with my kids, but definitely much more now because I'm like, I'm kind of behind. I gotta get moving. I was just doing it all on my own because I just assumed they weren't interested. But I didn't tell my dad was interested. He just talked about it.
All the time, yeah. I'm a little bit embarrassed. I did the Take Your Kids to Work Day, and we buy a lot of our homes from the foreclosure auction.
Yeah.
So they could be abandoned, it could be this, it could be that. They're ugly homes.
That's how I grew up. Yeah.
Which gives me the opportunity to put a huge amount of money in it and make it great. Okay. But I've not broken into homes before, but they're on the foreclosure list, and I did. I may have had a stick my kid through a window more than once.
No, that was my job. That's funny that you said that. My job was going through the window because this was 1980 and below. So I was little. There was no internet. He knew everyone. So we would have the list from the courthouse and we would go. And if there were no cars or it was clearly vacant, he was like, you have to get in. We need to see the place. We can't see from the outside. Sometimes the doors were open, but see, this doesn't sound weird to me. Other people are probably horrified. Like, you guys are committing burglaries. No.
Right. No, not really. If the cops show up, they'd be fine. They'd be like, because we're making the neighborhoods better, to be honest.
Exactly.
We're taking that, you know what I mean? And I got to tell you, I snuck this in. I had an investor that had other interests and I think he sold a business and made multiple seven figures. And he's like, long story short, is I did a seller financing deal with him. And I actually had my kids buy two houses air quotes, with
Yeah.
seller financing is the point.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
So anyway, I've got each of them are right now. We have a 21, 23, and then I have a 24 and 26. They haven't gotten into it quite yet, but the younger ones got into it, and they pay taxes, they pay insurance every now and then. I negotiate. We raise the leases, everything, and they're like, all right, makes sense. And they walk the properties.
Yeah.
And I said, play dumb. Don't tell me.
Yeah. See, my dad dragged me to pick up rent from every single tenant. I knew them all. So he would I really understood tenancy, but I think it's important. I think that kids are kind of disconnected from money now in a way. They're just not really understanding how it's going to work because it's changing all the time. It's not, sure, is the dream home ownership? I don't know, not for everybody. I mean, sure. I like it because that's how I've made a lot of money. I'm just buying homes, living in them, and then trading them later with the appreciation.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, with those kids, the best thing I did when they were young is I said, any money you can have any car you want when you turn 16. You can have a McLaren, you can have a Lamborghini, Ford Bronco, whatever you want. I'll split it with you. And then my son was in 8th grade. He's like, I've got $900. And I said, well, let's shop for $1,800 cars then, buddy.
Yeah, let's see what's out there.
He was not very happy with the choices of an $1,800 car. So, and then it started them down the right path. And helping those kids, matching their effort, that type of thing. It's been a really, really big gift, and my daughter's big into her faith right now. And so those are some of her dreams, what she wants to do. And I said, great. That said, I've always taught you to have good credit. You're still buying, maybe you're going to buy a house every other year with me, but you're still buying real estate. Yeah. Whatever you want to do in life, you still got to buy it, Yeah.
And I think it's cool because it's something that you can do on the side, especially if you have that guide. It's like you can work your regular job and you can have all of your passions and you can still own real estate that's generating income on the outside. You can still dabble in stocks. Like nothing has to be so absolute that it's the only thing that you can do. And you can buy a rental, be a landlord, and decide that you hate it. Like me, it's not what you want,
Right. When you get older and have a podcast.
Yeah, you can just sit around in your office and Zoom with people and go on Riverside and just knock out episodes. The cool thing about it is, though, we can have this conversation and someone could just be driving in their car and be like, you know what? What Michael said, that actually makes sense to me. Like I have 4 kids and then they could generate, we'll never know about it. That's what I really like about the medium of just getting the information out there.
Right. I get that sometimes. People are all over the country. Of course, they're local too, but I have a German client with 12 houses. And then he tells me what you need to spend in euros on something. I'm like, no wonder why you're with me. I do. I was spent a lot of time in the Santa Monica, LA area. I've got a lot of clients in San Diego. Financial planners have referred to me quite a bit. But the key is like I said, not only starting with that, but is like I feel that I'm like one of those like not a maitre d' in a restaurant, but I do enjoy a good steak. Yeah. And let's say I order it medium rare and it's not what I want, maybe too well done or not enough or whatever. But the guy comes out and he says, sir, that's not good enough. I'm going to take care of you. He may or may not buy my meal, but the point is that if and when things go wrong, you're there. Yeah. And you know what? When you deal with people's money, people are emotional. Whether it's a lot or a little, the point is it's emotional. It's not just my rain on my car. It's emotional. So I'm that old school guy that answers his phone, the old school guy that answers a text, get back to you and say, hey, it's not going right, or don't worry about it. It's fine. It's going to come back on the 10th instead of the 9th. Or, you know what I mean? Just contextualize people and then they're fine, and you take care of them. That's all you do and if it goes sideways, you take care of people.
And again, I mean, for your business, nothing is absolute. So you always have to have an escape hatch, and real estate kind of always has that. You have you try to do something as a short-term rental, then they create laws that you can't do it. So then you pivot to midterm or long-term. You still have the asset. You still have the dirt. Things change in the neighborhood. It's getting more commercial. Great. Now let's see if we can turn this into a mixed use. Like there's so many options that actually owning the tangible asset is great. And then if you just go back, which the part where we started is you can add value to it. Like what if you one day decide you want to add a level on a ranch? You just increase not only your own value, but the value on the whole block. Now everybody else may say, I didn't know you could add a level. Yeah, that's what ranches are good for. Let's put a top on this thing. Then the whole dynamic of the neighborhood could change just through a couple people, experimenting with things in real estate.
I mean, we've done added bedrooms, we've added bathrooms. My California friends have added ADUs.
Oh, yeah.
We've done the egress windows in the basement so you can get out. We've finished basements in the Midwest. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're right. You don't necessarily need to go, what I like around why single families work in the Midwest so well is the dirt is inexpensive.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Indianapolis actually sold our old airport to like a FedEx or an Airborne Express, and we built a brand new airport because there's enough dirt nearby to do that.
Yeah.
So we don't multi-units actually don't do as well here because you can rent a 2-bedroom house for $1,200 or so, or a 3 or 4-bedroom house for $1,500 or $1,800. And these people are working at Amazon making $60-70 grand a year. They need a place to stay with their wife and kids or husband and kids or whatever it may be. It's nice.
And one thing I was thinking of early, like when we were talking about, maybe that younger person, they buy an investment in the Midwest, before they buy their own personal residence. And then a couple of years later, they find out they can work mobile, they can go anywhere. And they're like, well, I'm just going to move to that house. It's so cheap. I'm paying, $4,000 in rent. I can move to that. It will cost me nothing, and then I can buy another one in the area.
Right.
That's the way that my sister and I always talked about real estate because of, what our dad left us and how he talked about it was like, look, if everything goes haywire, we still have a place to live. It can be an investment property. Like maybe my house burns down or something. I need a place to go. It's cool that you have other options or that you can be the portal for tenants to give them an opportunity to rent before they buy, and to experience what home feels like.
It's funny is that along those lines is my software that I use for property management. I can't make people do things, but I almost everyone's on auto pay. And then my software can report to the credit bureaus to help my tenants build their credit.
Yeah.
And
that's
I'm like,
great.
Well, why would you, hey, John, why would you not do that? Or, why would you not want to report to the credit bureaus? You plan on paying on time, don't you, sir? And they're like, well, yes, I do, Michael, and it works out great.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said for making everything more cooperative in real estate.
Sure.
I was a trial attorney, so I always say when I, started doing real estate like more full time, it was like negotiations in real estate are funny to me. Nobody's going to prison for life. So, I mean, how important really is this? If we lose this house, we just get another one. Like there, inventory is low now, but everyone says like, oh, inventory is so low now. I'm like, there's not. There's houses everywhere. They're just not on the market for sale. They might be available, if you do some off-market acquisition. So I think there's always something out there with real estate. And like you said, there's always dirt underneath it. And you can find areas where the dirt's cheaper. It's why people get into land flipping. It's a very low entry point for that kind of interest point. So over the years, how did you decide that you wanted to do this kind of done for you principle? Did you just want to make things easier for people because you saw it as like, hey, I know you, because you have 4 kids. You're like, hey, this is just this will be easier for everybody.
You know what? Exactly what happened is that when I was 31 years old, my dad, who served in our country's military, actually on the USS Midway, which is now a museum in San Diego, he passed away. Then I was like the financial kid. My parents had 2 kids. My sister was great. Just I'm a little bit more, it's my aptitude. And so I originally I put my dad's money, which is my mom's inherited IRA, into stocks. You just need to have a certain variance in stocks. It goes up and down. And she's like, I only want to make money. I don't want to lose money, which is valid for a 60-year-old person to say, right? Because there was
that's why I don't even look at my stocks. I just look at the year and see how much am I up. That's all I care about.
Right. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up having my mom buy real estate inside the IRA.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be my dad's old 401k. And we went through that, and through a couple other different arrangements, it ended up doing very, very well for my mom. My mom didn't really know the houses, know the tenants. She didn't need to.
Yeah.
We just helped her out with rent every month. And then someone I remember, I share this story in I used to do seminars for Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I did a seminar there, and and the lady raised her hand and said, "Can I be your mom?" I said, "Wait a second here. There could be a
business idea coming here." Yeah.
Right. And I said, and at that time, I think I had 9 houses or something like that. Indianapolis, Robert Kiyosaki really liked that market a lot.
Yeah.
And so I heard the other speakers talking about these markets where it's, it just passes all the tests with, it's 700 miles from 2/3 of America, lots of universities nearby, all the numbers work, low insurance, low property taxes, all the numbers work. And so I said, let's see how this goes. And I think we grew to 150 doors under management in a couple of years. We became new home builders. And then the retail market sped up a little bit. So we actually kind of gave that to the retail division. Yeah. And then before you knew it, we were at, 700 doors under management. And it just worked out so well because almost 50% of our business is repeat or referral.
Yeah, of course.
I love doing these types of podcasts, but you got to take care of these investors and then saying, hey, Jonathan, you only have two. You're 45 years old. You're mentioning you want to get to 10. Are you ready or no?
Yeah.
And they're like, I'll be ready in the spring.
Yeah.
What's the plan? Yeah. I'm ready. I'm enjoying the rent on all my houses when you're not buying them, but all of our houses are already rehabbed and already rented. So people just take them off the shelf and the direct deposit comes next month.
Yeah, so. I always ask people this with a business because I think it's so important because it's never everybody, as you were just saying. So for real estate done for you, who's your ideal avatar? Like who's walking to, making that first contact and you're like, oh, you're a perfect fit for this.
Right. It was like you have done a great job in contextualizing people. Obviously, we believe in real estate, but you do it with such of a common sense thing. You were like, if we were to debate someone, we would probably win in our own minds, right? But if someone is contextualized and they could be, 30 to 60 years old, their age is not super important.
Yeah.
But they, like I said before, is they do have to take action. And it's not whether the house is yellow or green or blue or tan. It's really the concept that makes sense. So here's where it doesn't work out, where someone's like, well, I wouldn't live there. Well, your dream car isn't a Camry. That's not the point of it.
Yeah.
That's not the point of this. The point is the machine. I actually do enjoy when people come to town. In fact, I'll buy their plane tickets. I tell people, as long as we're not wasting each other's time, come on in, jump in the truck, we'll share a meal together and see the operation.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they're like, it was better than I thought. I haven't been to Indianapolis a lot, but, Rich Dad taught me to go in that mid-tier market where you're not in New York, you're not in LA for the expense. You're right in that mid-tier where, like we just had Taylor Swift come in and she filled the Lucas Oil Stadium with 80,000 people for 3 days in a row.
And there's probably, 500,000 on the wait list. So, yeah.
Right. Tickets were $1,500 to $4,000 and they're sold out.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, good job, Taylor.
Yeah. But to your point before, I do think it's important to know, like, these properties don't have to suit where you would want to live, but I do think you need to be open to like wanting to go to the area just because I feel like you'll be too detached. Even if you are a turnkey investor, like if you own 6 properties in Indianapolis, wouldn't it be cool to swing by and see them?
Absolutely.
Like, it's like if you own art, you want to just put it in the basement or do you want to look at it? I want to look at it. They're cool. Houses are cool. I want to know who's there. And maybe I don't need to be best friends with the tenants, but I'd like to know, like, hey, do they enjoy living there? Is there something I can do to make it better? It's a kind of you can still do that, with a guide along the way as well. But I think it's important to like you're saying, like, hey, come to town. Like, at least know that now you can choose, like, you can do 3 or 4 because that's really what works best for people. Is you don't want like one in Indianapolis, one in Columbus, one in Topeka, Kansas. Like, conceivably that could work, but your property management costs are going to be higher in each area because you're not clustering them together. So if you find one area to start with, get 3 or 4 if you can over the 4 years. So at least your management is centralized and hey, look, I can kind of bounce up my values off of these other ones here. You got it. No, hands down. And it's also that team, Right. You don't have to build 5 teams. Right. We were, I was taught by my mentor is you can scale if you just go vertical. So we own everything from acquisition to rehab to maintenance to property management. In fact, I'm a part owner in a self-directed IRA company. So, it's not unusual to say we were sending Jonathan's, LLC X thousand and then his Roth owns 2 houses or whatever it may be, and it's been great. So once we're vertically oriented, that's actually how we've gotten better with our rehabs. Yeah, because we thought this one would work. And then 2 years later, it's not as durable as we thought. So we keep redoing things and make it better and better and better and better and better. And now 15 years later, we're pretty good. Yeah. I've seen vertical integration really working in all aspects of real estate. And again, it's still a personal choice for what you want to undertake and what you want to pay out. But at some point, at some level, vertical integration is going to serve you better if you can do it. Awesome. So, Michael, is the best place for people to find out about you and what you do at Real Estate Done For You, and that's done for, and it's the number 4 and then the letter U. So it's Real Estate Done, all those words, and then the number 4 and the letter U.com.
Yes, that's the best way to get a hold of me. There's a little button up there that says strategy session. I did write a book that's on Amazon called Retire on Rent Revised. It's not going to super impress you, and then it'll be an excellent coaster when you're done reading it. No, it's about a 45-minute read. I get it out.
Those are the best kind.
Right, right. But yeah, I'm very open to reach out to me online or personally and get started or have a conversation or come to town. Whatever's best for you and yours, we're here for you.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you spending the time. Yeah. I enjoyed it. We're just probably about the exact same age. So it's nice to just get that mindset of like where we started and where we are. So I really appreciate your time.
Excellent. Sounds good. We'll play pickleball sometime. We'll see who wins.
Absolutely. All right. That was Michael Drew, the founder of Real Estate Done For You. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get that free preview of the next episode that's coming up on Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And the next episode is with Andrew Reichert. He's the CEO and visionary of Burgo. Now, you can find out more about them before we get there at birgo.com. What is Burgo? Private equity real estate investment and management. And they run a really interesting company. I think you're going to enjoy this show, and I can't wait for you to hear it. So stay tuned next episode for Andrew Reichert.